Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Pauly Shore performs live at the DC Comedy Loft tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday in Washington, D.C. He joined me to discuss his career from Encino Man to Biodome to Pauly Shore is Dead. Hey, Pauly Shore. Hey, thanks so much for calling into WTOP.
All good. What's up, my man?
Hey, we're excited to welcome you back to the nation's capital. You're going to be coming to the DC Comedy Loft on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So 3 days in a row. No excuse, people, not to get your tickets. You've never played this venue before, right? It said it was your Loft debut.
The last place I played there was it Club 360? What's it called? I forgot the name of it.
Oh, 930 Club, maybe?
Yeah, there it is.
There it is. You were pretty close. It was just like triple the number or something.
That's how long it's been since I've been there.
Yeah, exactly.
How's the 930 Club? Is it still there?
It's still there, yeah. They moved to a new location, so that 930 is not the address anymore. But funny you mentioned that. They're going to open a replica of the old 930 Club right across the street. So, yeah, you're timely on your news there.
There you go.
Well, cool. Whenever I have comedians on, it's always tricky because I don't want to spoil your punchlines, but maybe we could say, what sort of material do you dive into? Like personal life stuff, any political stuff for DC, or what we got?
I don't know. I mean, I'm the kind of comic that doesn't know where he's going to go. You know what I mean? My whole life and my whole career has been kind of like very spontaneous. So I got to feel the stage. Once I get on the stage, then the audience will tell me where to go. I don't sit there and look at my notes before I go on. I just kind of like rock and roll,
That's the best way because it feels, in the moment and spontaneous anyway. I think audiences probably appreciate that anyway than something planned out. Well, you have good instincts for it though, because you basically grew up all around it, right? Like, didn't your parents, own the comedy store there in LA, grew up in Beverly Hills? And when did you do your first stand-up? I guess it was age 17 in Culver City. So was this something you always knew that you were going to do based on, your folks doing it and everything? Like, was this always the dream?
Well, I have brothers and a sister, and they didn't get into it. So, for me, I got half my mom. I mean, we're pretty much half our parents. You know what I mean? We're kind of like split in two with our parents. But, my mom is kind of like very intense with her work, and my dad was comedian. So I don't know. I'm kind of like, I don't know. I'm like kind of Frankenstein, where I'm like a combination of both my parents. For me, I just love making people happy, and that's kind of like what gets me off. It's kind of in my veins. So I got the bug growing up in it, and it's weird. I'm 55, and I'm just as into it now as I was, 10, 15 years ago. I mean, I get on a plane. I'm flying on a plane all the way from Los Angeles to see you guys. That's a long flight, and that's not that enjoyable, but once I get on that stage, there's the reason,
Yeah, you got to be committed to it if you're gonna, fly all over the country to different cities doing it.
Yeah, people always ask me about that, and I'm like, stand-up comedy is a way of life. It's not a job. It's not a hobby. And if you kind of come at it with the, expectation, like things are gonna, work out. If you just kind of do it half-assed, it's not gonna happen. It's just, it's a 7 days a week, 24 hours. It's always on my mind. I just love it. I love getting on stage, and I love messing with people and doing my shtick. Yeah.
We love it. Well, I mentioned, your dad, Sammy Shore, your mom, Mitzi Shore, in the comedy store. Do you have any good stories of, being a kid at the comedy store, watching any famous acts coming through there? Like, I know Sam Kinison mentored you once you started getting into it, but even before that, like, was there anyone you remember going and watching as a kid and just like dying laughing?
Well, it's weird because, I'm there now and I watch the comedians. I was just there last night.
Okay.
And, I watch the comedians on stage now. This is kind of to divert your question, but
go for it.
Where my head's at.
Divert away.
Divert away. It's just so different now. It's so different because, like, back in the day, I would be in the original room at the Comedy Store, and I'd watch guys like Robin Williams or Sam or Letterman or all these guys, and now I'm watching these other kids, and it's just they're so fucking lazy. You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh God, And I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying my eyeballs have seen the best.
Right.
So I'm kind of jaded, when it comes to the new comedians, because I feel bad because I want to say, oh, these guys are great and everyone's so funny, but it's just, I'm not saying I'm so great, but I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the other comedians,
The comedians your eyes have seen. I mean, once you've seen Robin Williams, rest in peace, his brain moving a mile a minute, cracking, throwing out jokes, everyone's going to seem lazy compared to that. He was a cosmic treat, man. That guy's brain.
But just there was an electricity in the air back in the day, and it's just not there. Do
you think we'll ever get it back?
I don't think so.
No. Well, you're nope. Gonna have to just fight the good cause then at your shows. Well, just to kind of keep it moving chronologically a little bit, I know a lot of our listeners, you became a household name with like the MTV VJ stuff and Spring Break and Totally Pauly and all that stuff. Like, how big was that for your career to, enter living rooms as opposed to just stand-up clubs? Like that sort of puts you on the map.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just a timing thing. I bring up Justin Bieber a lot because like remember he was on the stairs. And someone filmed him and they sent it to Usher, and then all of a sudden Usher took his career and, that happened. So for me, that YouTube video was MTV. So, that's kind of where we were at the time in the early 90s. And when I got on camera, it just, for some reason, just resonated with people. And I don't know the answer and I don't know how. It just did. It's a timing thing, it's like Justin on the stairs, it's just like, it was a timing thing, he just did this video and he sang and Usher saw it and he's like, man, this guy's the man, So that's how it was back then. MTV was was the biggest thing back then. It was, it was where everyone wanted to go. It was what all the kids were watching and I was right there holding a microphone and yeah, it was pretty cool. And then the movies and then they say the rest is history, but it wasn't as easy as people thought. It wasn't like all of a sudden I got on MTV and then I hit. Right. My first time on MTV didn't go well. It was actually, I got sent home from Spring Break because I was so awkward and nervous and uncomfortable and didn't know what the fuck was going on. It was my first Spring Break but it was like Rocky, you that's what life's about. You fall, you get back up and you keep going. So I kept going and I kept going and finally, eventually, it happened. So
well, we're glad you kept going because, the Encino Man is like a staple of my generation. I guess it came out in 92. And yeah, I know you'd done some TV stuff on, 21 Jump Street and St. Elsewhere, Married with Children, et cetera, MTV, of course, you mentioned that. But like Encino Man to me is with you and Sean Astin finding that caveman. That's just like classic early 90s stuff. It is a time capsule of just funny coming of age stuff. How wild is it? I saw your Instagram post the other day after the Oscars, congratulating your co-stars Brendan Fraser and Ke Huy Quan, both winning Oscars. I mean, that just got to be mind-blowing to see your fellow Encino Man co-stars winning Oscar Gold now. I mean, how thrilled were you watching that happen? That must have been just mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, Key has said it, he said it, you can never stop believing, you can never stop dreaming. And that's the thing with your listeners. It's like, that's what this life is about. This life is about dreaming and believing and everyone's going to tell you no. And everyone's going to say you're not worthy or you're not good enough or you're not this or that, but you have to believe in you. And that's what these guys did. Brendan got the shit beat out of him for 20 years, doing this or that or whatever he was going through. And then this director just out of nowhere called him up. It's one phone call. And the same thing with Key. So, life is weird. I mean, who thought COVID would happen, And,
right.
And it's just a bunch of curveballs. Life is a bunch of curveballs. Yeah.
Man, yeah, that's such a good point. Brendan Fraser gets a call from Darren Aronofsky, or Key gets a call from the Daniels, and suddenly,
and then I get a call from you, and then someone hears this in Washington, and they want me to run for president, and just like that.
We need you. This is the craziest political time that I can remember. We don't have to, sidetrack into all that because I'm sure people are tired of it. But yeah, what would a President Pauly Shore, what would that look like?
Well, the problem is if I ran for president with a straight face, I'd probably win.
Probably.
I have the liberals because I was raised at the Comedy Store, and I got the rednecks because of Son-in-Law and MTV, and then I would bring the country together. I would unite it, not divide it. That would be my first order of business. Was like, we got to stop fighting with each other because Fox News and CNN, it's too far left and too far right, and it's a fucking headache. These people are both of them are just, they're terrible. It's terrible. It's not, when I grew up, it wasn't like that.
Oh yeah, and even I mean, we mentioned your early roles. Like even in the time since then, it is just I guess it's cable TV news, like you're saying, and talk radio and stuff. Like none of that was so divisive back then. It is like people just trying to out extreme the other. And the truth of the matter, most people fall in the middle. You're right.
Exactly. Yeah.
You mentioned you got the Son-in-Law fans. What is the other than Encino Man? Because I mean that's my personal favorite. But what is the one that most people come up? Is it Son-in-Law in the Army now? Probably Biodome, maybe. I mean that I feel like you and Stephen Baldwin. That's probably the cult classic of all of them.
Yeah, I think Biodome seems like the biggest cult classic.
And why do you think that is? Just
I don't
the
know.
goofy premise of being, this science experiment. Like, does that stick out in people's mind compared to the others? Or I don't know. Why do you think it is?
I don't know. I mean, that's what, as an actor, I just kind of go off and I become this character and I engage in it in the story and then I walk away. And then what happens after that? I don't know. I don't have the answer. I don't have the answer of why people resonated with that one. So I don't know.
Well, do you have? Well, so that's the one that people resonated with, other people. But how about for you? Do you have any personal fun? Of the most enjoyable being on set of any of those? Maybe not the end product or what people thought of it or whatever. But in terms of you on set, do you have one that you look back on it and smile as like the most satisfying?
All those movies were great, but I think Pauly Shore's Dead was my best movie.
20th anniversary, baby, mockumentary, 2003.
Yeah. So I think that was my best movie because it was the first time that I had control of the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it was fun to try to figure out what the fuck it was and the tone and obviously painting the picture with all the cameos and I don't know, I think it just plays very real and I think it appeals to both sides, I think it appeals to the liberals and the Republicans,
Now, how did you get all of those famous cameos? Because like almost everybody you can imagine agreed to do that documentary.
It was a very luck of the draw. It was, again, I bring back Justin Bieber. I bring back my timing with MTV. It was just a timing thing. It was the way the world was then. It was, where I was in my career and when I made the call to these people. And then once I got Sean Penn in there, that was kind of it because Sean Penn at the time was kind of like one of the hottest actors in Hollywood. And he always does stuff outside the box. So when I asked him to do it, he agreed. And once I filmed him and got him on tape, then I was able to kind of use that to get other people in there and say, hey, I got Sean Penn. And they're like, fuck, really? And I'm like, yeah, look, there's Sean Penn. And then from there, it just snowballed. And then it took about 5 years, to make the whole thing. I think Britney Spears was the last interview of the cameos. And we kind of like had enough. And then I just test screened it a lot. And it was just like, I don't know, it's therapeutic. It was, I say Pauly Shore is the first part of the second part of my career, but
I've noticed a trend of what you're saying is some of your biggest stuff is Paul. You said Pauly Shore is Dead, and I know you played yourself in Entourage, and then you did Pauly Shore Stands Alone. Like, do you find these days that playing yourself, you're almost a funnier character yourself than anything scripted? I mean, do you like just playing yourself?
I think it's a case by case. I don't always want to play myself, but these particular projects lent themselves for me to play myself. So, it's a case by case, project to project. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't have a wife. I don't have that whole thing that most people do. I have a dog. And that's enough for me right now. Our days get shorter every single day and our time on this earth gets shorter. So, I want to spend my days and my time creating. If I'm married with kids and all that, then, I'm going to divert my energy to that. And that's, something that I'll lose, the other stuff. And, kids today, I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's the whole other thing.
Hey, you do you, man. And hey, what kind of dog you got? What's the dog's name? I'm curious now.
His name's Buster, and is half lab, half chow, half husky. He's a great dog. He's like my guy, and that's a lot. It's a lot of responsibility. We all have dogs, and when the dog goes crazy when you bring your leash. You ever like start to walk towards your door and you have your leash? It's like got a heart attack. You can't believe it. He's gonna actually leave the house.
Oh yeah, our dog Liberty is the same way. It just freaks out the second they see you, grab something that involves going for a walk. They're just going nuts. They don't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah, and my dog is so big. He walks me now. So I want to get a shock collar for him. Where you press the button and he chills the fuck out.
Yeah. Well, so Buster's the one saying, "Hey, Pauly, we're going for a walk. Come on."
Pretty much.
Well, you've been more than generous with your time. Real quick, final seconds. What are your favorite comedies that aren't? We've talked a lot about your movies, but I want to know in the final seconds, like, do you have a favorite comedy of all time? Favorite comedy movie?
I remember Stir Crazy was great. I liked all the Eddie Murphy stuff. I don't know, Chris Farley's funny. I like Will Ferrell movies. I like Sandler movies. I don't know. There's a whole bunch.
Yeah, and Sandler just got the Mark Twain Prize at the Kennedy Center, so maybe some of that DC magic will still be here for your show. So, well, hey, thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate this cross-country call here. Everybody get the tickets at DC Comedy Loft Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
I'll see you guys this week, Washington, D.C. I'm flying all the way from California, so I'm excited to come back to the capital.
Pauly Shore. Thanks, man.
All right, later, bud. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.